So today I'm going to be talking about information transparency, which is not price transparency. It's more about the access to information. I'll introduce myself since you can't see me. So I'm Serina. Like I said, I have 4 kids. They are 27, 18, 15, and 8, which is a whole lot of kids. I also have a grandbaby on the way from the 27-year-old, thank goodness. So I'm currently overwhelmed all of the time. I've been in revenue cycle for 13 years. I had a birthday right after the hurricane on September 2nd, and I turned 45, so I'm feeling very old. And my 27-year-old is my stepson, just to clarify. All right. So today I'm going to be talking to you guys about information transparency, why good, dependable, and clear information is important to having a strong revenue cycle, and a few ways that we here at Baton Rouge General have worked to meet that need. In being in revenue cycle for more than 10 years, if it's taught me one thing, it's that revenue cycle is in a constant state of change. Nothing ever stays the same. Maybe that's part of why they call it a cycle. I don't know. But everything we do is always changing. There's always a new regulation or a new payer, a new challenge. We have new regulations to deal with, like the pricing transparency regulations that went into effect for 2021, regulations on collections and who can send statements. Just things are always changing. We're also constantly seeing new feedback and policy requirements from our payers. We see denials that we've never seen before pop up. We see denials that may have only happened a few times suddenly become roadblocks that we have to figure out how to solve for our teams. Because those things can really slow our team down. When that happens and there's not enough data, we don't know where to focus to be the most efficient. So information is super important. We also have new contracts with new terms that we have to negotiate. We have to negotiate those contracts to be the best as they can be for our organizations. And to do that, we have to know where to push to make those contracts effective for our organizations. We're all also under constant pressure to improve patient experience for our facilities. I know I am. I know here that's a really big focus. What a great patient experience is tends to change over time as technology improves and changes, even as it changes in other industries. Like I would say that COVID had a really big impact on what is expected for our patient experience. People were suddenly able to order things online and pay through QR codes and go have things delivered that they never have before. Everything was touch-free. And that put a lot of pressure on revenue cycles to be able to meet those same needs. Patients who have used QR codes to pay for their meals probably expect to be able to pay their bills the same way because it's easy, and now they know about it. We're in the business of keeping up with these changes and expectations and doing it better than anybody else because we're not McDonald's, we're the hospital. We have to do it better. Doing all of this requires information on what our patients want and how effective the things we put in place are. Given this constant state of change, revenue cycle, and the continuous need for improvement, we need to be on top of our game to be successful. Everybody else is, so we have to do the same thing. And the only way to do that is to have easy access to all of the information that we need. Easy access to easy to understand information that is up to date. A lack of information leads to business stagnation or worse still, deterioration. Obviously, deterioration of our revenue cycle would be one of the worst things that could happen to a hospital. If you don't have a healthy revenue cycle, you cannot have a successful hospital. I see deterioration and I think death of a revenue cycle. So we need to know what's going on and what the needs are at all times. If not, we'd be in big trouble. When thinking about some of the information challenges that we've dealt with in our revenue cycle, it's not usually about a lack of information. I mean, information is available. It's more about how can you get that information? How easy is it to find what you need? How easy is it to understand? The problem is about ease of accessing and sharing data and keeping up with the changes that I've talked about before. So bear with me. I think I'm okay. I'm still on course. Since I started at Baton Rouge General in 2017, we've done a lot of work and made some really key changes to make information more available and easier to use. I'm going to talk about a few of those things, the few of the areas where we focused, and I'm going to focus a little bit on Parathon because I'm speaking at their conference, even though I'm not there to get the dinner. So as you'll hear, as I talk through several of these topics, one of the best decisions we really did make for our revenue cycle team was teaming up with Parathon. Some of the areas of information that we've struggled with in the past included knowing what was in our contracts, which sounds really simple, but sometimes it's hard to even get your hands on a contract, much less get an understanding of what it says. I'm not saying that contracts would not be found, but it was usually a process. I think Terry could speak to our process and how confusing it was for when we had to get all of those contracts to her. But it always involved emails and is this the most current? There was always some redirection and a little bit of digging through no fault of anybody. It was just a complicated, not efficient process. So we wanted to change that. We also struggled with our contract negotiations, underpayments, clarity on our denials, knowing how to be successful in patient collections, and our patient experience. So those were all issues that we tackled, and some of the things I want to tell you about today. I don't think any of these struggles are unique to BRG, for sure. So, like I said, the problem in most of these areas was not that we didn't have access to the information or the ability to get it. The problem was finding the information, accessing the information being simple for the people who need to have it. I always say, and I really do, that revenue cycle is like a puzzle. I remember when I learned about utilization review many, many years ago, and I was like, oh, it's like the final piece of the puzzle. But it really wasn't, because there's always more pieces to the puzzle. But if you're doing a puzzle and you want to be successful, you have to have all the pieces to make that whole. And all of those pieces need to be in the room where you can put your hands on them. You don't want to go digging. So I kind of like this picture. One really positive change that we made with Parathon was bringing on Parathon as our contract management system. I think I said it before, but one thing that our team struggled with prior to Parathon was just knowing what's in the contracts, knowing what's there and what it means. And is this the most recent version? Has there been something new? It's pretty basic information need. Everybody needs to have that information. In our current state, we've really tackled that. All of our contracts are available through Parathon. The contract terms are there and are easy for all members of the team to understand. You know, there's simple language. Everybody knows what's going on. We recently hired a new director of contracting, Melissa Bazet. I think she's been here about 2 weeks. And the availability of those contracts and terms immediately made her onboarding a bit easier. The director she was replacing had been here for 23 years, so as you can imagine, the paper files were a bit excessive, and so the ability to just get access to Parathon, and then she can see the contracts and she can see the dates. All of that made her job a little bit easier, at least starting out. Her job won't be easy, but starting out was a little bit easier. The hardest part was getting the access, but I took care of it. So there was no digging through files or trying to interpret the previous director's filing system. Thank God. I'm the only one that had to do that when I cleaned out his office, and she was up and running. Using Parathon for contract management also gives us more reliable data. Our net downs are more accurate, and the summaries regarding the estimated payments are really useful to our team. They feel like they have a better hold on why we're being paid the way we are, and you want your follow-up staff to have that information. You want them to have a good understanding of what's going on with your accounts, and there is no such thing as too much information in that area. As far as contract negotiations, that has been vastly impacted by the information that's available to us through Parathon. Our previous negotiations included modeling, of course, but it was a very manual process. It involved a good bit of guesswork and some monster spreadsheets that Amy has shared in the past with me. When I was talking to Amy Marino, she was with me in Vegas last year, so I'm saying her name like you guys know her. When I was talking to Amy, and she was going to be with me this year, so please feel bad for Amy as well. When I was talking to her about the presentation, I told her that I was going to mention the impact that the data and reports that are available in Parathon had on her processes, and she could not say enough good things. So if you know Amy, you know she has a lot of things to say, and they're usually good, but she was very excited. I told her I'd be sure to include one of her direct quotes, so here you go. Parathon modeling for contract negotiations has been a game changer. She actually said it was life-changing in the same conversation, but I can't figure out how to put all that on a slide, so just know she loves it. The reason for this strong endorsement is that Amy actually has easy access to reliable information with the Parathon modeling process. She has information she can use to make our contract management team more successful. And actually, our whole contract management team really came together and became more successful and more of a unit when we had this information. We felt like we were empowered. It really did change the way we do things. Amy has accurate data to compare our contracts to one another. She has accurate data when modeling proposed rates. She can see the dollar impact of a new rate proposal, and that is invaluable. She has the data about denials that are most likely impacted by contract language, and all of this information together makes us powerful. So when we're talking to payers and we're asking for things, we know when to push in our negotiations. We know when not to push. We have a better understanding of what the impact of those negotiations will be. These things really help us identify any wiggle room we might have by allowing us to analyze the impacts by service area. I mean, I really can't say enough because Amy couldn't say enough, and that's a good thing. This information has changed not only her job, but our entire approach to contract negotiations. So that's a big one where information clarity helped out. Information is a negotiator's greatest weapon. This is a pretty picture and a nice quote, but I really think that this does sum up the impact and the clarity and access to data that it's had for our team. So. All right. And then I don't want to forget PFS. So one last area where the information that is available to us through Parathon really helped our team was PFS, our follow-up team. Our collectors have access to a lot of information through the system, and it's really revolutionized, I would say, the way they do their jobs. And that's saying something. I'll just say, and if you saw me speak last year, you probably know this, but a lot of the people on our PFS team have been with Baton Rouge General for more than 20 years. I mean, there's people here 20, 30 years, but they've been doing these jobs for a long time, and change is not always an easy thing. But in this case, once we got it rolling, once the data was there, they could not get enough. They could not get enough information. The most stubborn people who struggled with change were happy to have this change because suddenly it was like a light came on. They had what they needed. The team knows which accounts really need follow-up now. They know if an underpayment is due to inclusive charges. They aren't going to spend their time following up on accounts where they can't make an impact. They have direction, is what Laurie said. Laurie Ernest is our manager of PFS, and I was proud to hear her say that. The ANSI mapping and the denial training information that's available to the team has also been a big help. We've been able to get a better picture on which denials are causing the most problems and the rework. Having this information has helped us know where to focus on stopping those denials at their source. And really, that's the only way to handle denials is go to the front end and stop it from happening. It prevents a lot of unnecessary touches by our team and helps us get paid a lot faster, which is our number one goal. Let me see. All right. Y'all forgive my stammering. I have too many screens with too much information. All right. So the underpayments were also a bit of a struggle for us prior to Parathon. There was some issues with is it an underpayment or a denial, but some of them flew beneath the radar, like they weren't worked the way they should have been. Some of them were. Some of them were probably worked a lot more than they should have been, but some of them weren't. And they just weren't getting the right amount of attention. With Parathon, we're able to route our short pays to our follow-up team work queues so that they know exactly what they're working. If they're working in those queues, they're working on short pays. If they're working in their denial queues, they're working on denials. And they have good information about what they're working. Good information on how we should have been paid. And this is just, again, it's life-changing. It's helpful. The team loves it. overall, PFS's whole process is made easier and more efficient because of the information that's available on individual accounts. And that's what they're all about, individual accounts. They don't care about roll-ups. They don't care about reports. They want to see it on that account and know what it means. They're just not spinning their wheels in that way anymore. They're working the accounts that actually need to be worked, and they have the tools they need to do it. And next slide. Information is also really good when it comes to dealing with your patients and patient collections. Another vendor that helped us improve our processes through providing easy access to that information was Serina. We brought our patient collections in-house and reduced our cost to collect by using this system. It was a really big change when we did it, but I think this is a pretty great example, another great example of how information is valuable. We were able to use their system to consolidate our patient billing for our hospitals and our clinics. Everything's in one place. Our customer service team and our collectors can see the total system-wide patient balance. They can see the system-wide bad debt. We have the propensity to pay scores in there. This has been tremendously helpful in focusing our collection efforts and improving the billing process for our patients. If you heard me talk last year, you probably heard me talk a little bit about that. Serina also helps us communicate with our patients in the ways that they want to be communicated with. We do call campaigns, text campaigns, email campaigns. We have the QR codes on our statements. And more importantly, we have the data to know what is working and what is not. We can monitor what is effective, what do the patients want. And that really leads into my patient experience slide. It just, I can't say enough. So when I was hired, Don told me 1/3 of my job was patient experience, and I didn't believe him, but it truly is. In our revenue cycle, we focus a lot on what the patients want and what they consider a good experience and what's effective with those patients. This is my last challenge to talk about, but if you want to give your patients what they want, if you want to improve their experience with your revenue cycle, you have to know what they want. And there's really only one way. You can guess all day, or you can listen to me tell you, or somebody else tell you, or you can do your reading. But if you really want to know what your patients want in your area and your different demographics, you need to talk to your patients. You need to hear from your patients. You need that information. You have to know how they react to the things that you do put in place. We've been able to do some really cool things by finding out what our patients want. We get this information in a few different ways. We do surveys on all of our communication platforms. We do text surveys, phone surveys, email surveys. We have an app here at the hospital that gets some feedback from our patients. We do beta testing of any new changes at our Ascension campus. That's a new campus we opened up, and we consider it our most innovative campus, but it's where we like to test things, and then it's a smaller facility, and we go on site there, and we actually talk to the patients, and we get their feedback on the things that we do and the things we have in place. We also monitor usage. What are people using? Are they paying through text? Are they asking questions through text? Are they paying with the QR code? We have so many reports about the different types of payments, and I just have to say it because I can't talk about payments without saying it. But here at Baton Rouge General, our philosophy is let the patient pay how they want to pay. However they want to pay, give them that ability. If they want to hot air balloon over us and drop the money down, we will go out in the yard and catch it. I'm also Southern, so I think it's okay to say out in the yard. So it's amazing, the reports we have, and those reports really do influence our direction because they're good, easy to access sources of information. They're real. We know what we're looking at. And just to reiterate, it's not enough to have information available to your team. The information needs to be simple and easy to apply in their situation. They need to be able to find it quickly and know what it is. Information is only useful when it can be understood. Pretty simple, but I mean, it's not something we think about a lot, but information needs to meet people where they are. And then I really liked this one. As Winston Churchill said, information rules the world, and it can certainly make it a lot easier to run a clean, successful revenue cycle. So that is my presentation. My contact information is serina.blackwell@brgeneral.org. I'm happy to talk about innovations and revenue cycle with anybody. Just ask Josh. I'm sorry I'm not there to visit you guys, and I'm going to turn my camera back on and turn the presentation off so that in case anybody has any questions. All right.